Welcome to 1189, an online Bible commentary. My name is Tyler Marston, and today we're taking a look at Genesis chapter 44. So we see that through all of Joseph's suffering, he's been elevated to this place of position, and he's really put in charge of whether his family lives or dies. He's trusted with making the decision of whether or not his family gets food to last them through this 7-year famine. And so far, we've seen Joseph be hesitant to trust his brothers. And I mean, that makes sense. They sold him into slavery. They wanted to kill him. So he's set up these tests to see if they've really changed. He planted money in their sacks to see if they would return it. And they did. He took Simeon as a hostage to see if that would motivate them to come back. And they did. He said, "Bring Benjamin with you. I want to see if you've harmed him in any way." And they haven't. It's surprising that at every turn, the brothers actually do the right thing. And so finally, Joseph sets up one last test to see if his brothers really have changed. And it's going to perfectly mirror their choice in choosing to abandon and sell Joseph into slavery. Through this test, Joseph is going to see if their hearts have really changed from being greedy and jealous to honest and loving. Then he commanded his house steward, saying, "Fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put each man's money in the mouth of his sack. Put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, and his money for the grain." And he did as Joseph had told him. Now, after the big lunch meal where Joseph has given Benjamin this crazy honor, Joseph sets up his final test by giving them all the food they've asked for, but planting a silver cup in Benjamin's bag. And one reason Joseph honored Benjamin so much at this feast was to replicate those feelings of partiality, favoritism, and preferential treatment that led his brothers to sell Joseph into slavery. Joseph is seeing if they're going to get jealous of Benjamin's favor and honor in the same way. Of course, this will also be a test to see if they keep their promise to their father, right? They promised Jacob that they would return Benjamin safe and sound. And if they abandon him in Egypt because he took a silver cup, then they're showing that they don't have any allegiance to their father either. And so it's a good way to really see if they've changed their ways. If they haven't changed their ways, they will blame Benjamin and abandon him and accuse him, just like they did to Joseph. As soon as it was light, the men were sent away, they with their donkeys. They had just gone out of the city and were not far off when Joseph said to his house steward, "Up, follow the men, and when you overtake them, say to them, 'Why have you repaid evil for good? Is not this the one from which my Lord drinks, and which he indeed uses for divination? You have done wrong in doing this.'" So Joseph instructs his men to chase down the brothers and accuse them of stealing the cup. And it reflects Laban chasing down Jacob for Rachel stealing Laban's idols in chapter 31. And that connection is even more strengthened when we learn that this cup is apparently used in Egyptian divination rituals. I highly doubt that Joseph actually practices divination because he's given all the credit to the one true God of his fathers in the past. But again, he's putting on that air of being this important Egyptian lord to really scare his brothers. Now, when Joseph's men meet up with his brothers, they say, "We don't know anything about any silver cups." They actually offer the same sentence for whoever stole the cup that Jacob inadvertently gave to Rachel when he says, "Whoever you find it with will die." And Joseph's steward actually says, "Oh, we're not going to kill anybody we find the cup with. We're just going to take them as our slave." And again, it's a repetition of what they did to Joseph. And the brothers are given a choice. They can repeat their sin or they can reject it and show that they've changed. Then they hurried. Each man lowered his sack to the ground, and each man opened his sack. He searched, beginning with the oldest and ending with the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they tore their clothes, and when each man loaded his donkey, they returned to the city. So, as opposed to Rachel, who actually stole those idols and got away with it through deception, we see Benjamin, who didn't steal the cup, not get away with it because of his honesty. It's very ironic, and it shows that doing the right thing can still sometimes lead to suffering. Joseph is an example of that, and Benjamin is also being set up to repeat Joseph's story. Now, back at Joseph's place, he confronts his brothers, and you can just imagine how tense he is, waiting eagerly for their response. Here's what they say. So Judah said, "What can we say to my Lord? What can we speak? How can we justify ourselves? God has found out the iniquity of your servants. Behold, we are my Lord's slaves, both we and the one in whose possession the cup has been found. But he said, "Far be it from me to do this. The man in whose possession the cup has been found, he shall be my slave. But as for you, go up in peace to your father." So Judah offers that him and all the rest of the brothers become slaves to Joseph. Joseph says, "Well, I don't need all of you as slaves. I just need the one who took the cup." He's continuing to give them every opportunity to betray and abandon their brother. However, Judah, whose idea it was to sell Joseph originally, steps in and actually intercedes for Benjamin. He offers his life as a replacement. He offers that he will be a slave in Benjamin's place. In verses 18 through 32, he retells the whole story and says what Jacob said whenever they came back the first time. And he tells Joseph the covenant he made with his father Jacob and how he would take the blame if anything were to happen to Benjamin. And then he says, "Now therefore, please let your servant remain instead of the lad a slave to my lord, and let the lad go up with his brothers. For how shall I go up to my father if the lad is not with me, for fear that I see the evil that would overtake my father?" And here we have Judah, the one whose idea it was to sell Joseph in the first place, but also the one who will be the ancestor of the Messiah. He steps in and offers himself to stay as a slave in Benjamin's place. In the same way, Christ, Judah's descendant, does that for us. We were condemned by sin we actually committed. Remember, Benjamin here is actually secretly innocent. And we stood guilty of deserving death and separation from God. But Jesus stepped in and interceded for us. He took our place in the servitude to sin and death that we deserved so that we could go free. In so doing, he actually defeated the stronghold that those powers had over us and the rest of creation. He was raised from the dead, enthroned in glory, and offers hope and salvation to all who come to him today. And this is where the chapter ends. It ends on this cliffhanger of Judah offering his life in place of Benjamin, and we don't know what Joseph is going to say. But if Joseph is anything like God, and we've seen he's been making godly choices, he's going to forgive his brothers their tremendous sin against him. In the same way, we, who have been forgiven of so much, can extend forgiveness and grace to everyone who wrongs us by the power and through the wisdom of Christ living inside of us. This has been 1189. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a good day, and I hope God blesses you. See you later.